It's that time again. Happy hour, Papa Top. Oh yeah, Tags. I hope you brought a drink.
No one told me about that.
We have a special guest this week. It's good to see everyone. Good to see everyone's faces. But Brian McTaggart of MLB.com is joining us this week. Everybody say hi to Tag.
Hi, Brian. How are y'all doing?
Hey.
Good to see you, buddy.
We're good.
Good to see you. Everyone hanging in there?
We are. So we get to follow you every once in a while with the stuff with your daughters. You seem pretty sad these days. What's going on in your family?
Yeah, we had high school graduation last night, or 2 nights ago rather. So I'm just glad we were able to. They lost their prom and all this other senior stuff. So to get the opportunity to have a ceremony was good, and it went well. So we're they're just going to hang out in the summer and then head off to college. So yeah, it's kind of crazy times.
And that's it for you, isn't it?
That'll be it. Yeah, that'll be it. So
yeah, you know what?
I'll be an emotional wreck probably.
Tags. I mean, most people I hope know that you have twin daughters, right?
Right.
And I just realized with my daughters moving on that I have one that is 2 years away from graduating, and then my 3 years away from graduating. So I'm kind of feeling for where you're at right now, because the realization of that is kind of crazy to think about, man.
Yeah, it is. I was at the grocery store the other day, and we're buying all this stuff for meals, and I'm like, man, in the fall I can just come here and get what I want. Like, I'm going to get these ready-to-eat meals, and it is, yeah. There's no pressure to cook supper, because we get text messages every night. What's for supper? Like, oh, great. Now I got to feed these guys. So now I don't want to feed anybody but myself.
It's actually the first thing my wife and I thought about, because we've got 6 every night, and in 3 years we're going to have 2.
Yeah, that'll be a big difference, right?
I'll come over, Blummer.
Hey, I might be able to move closer to you now.
There we go. Hey, Tags, do give us an update, though. It's been a while since we've seen you or chatted with you, and I know we've seen some tweets pop up, some stories be published, but how have you been doing through all this, and what's kept you busy other than the fam?
Yeah, doing pretty well, just like everybody else, reading all the articles and talking to people, trying to find out when and if baseball is going to start again, but it's hard to believe it's been June already, but we've been pretty busy work-wise at the website. I mean, I'm putting 3 or 4 fresh stories on the site a week. We have a couple of different series that we do. I've been going position by position, picking the all-time 5 best players at each position and ranking those, and having fans give their input on Twitter with polls. So that's been fun and really challenging. And I also kind of booted it on Lance Berkman, because I decided, well, I'm not going to put him at first, because he played more games in the outfield. But then I put him in the outfield, and I'm like, I had to put him in left, center, or right, and he played. I don't know. I just didn't have a place for Lance Berkman, and I should have just put him at first with Bagwell and have him finish second, and that's just the way it would have been. But it's been fun. I mean, and the amount of feedback on Twitter has been a lot of fun. But we've been running those every Monday, and a lot of lists, the greatest lists, and we're going to have a lot of stuff on the draft next week, because the draft is coming. So I'm going to have a draft preview coming later in the week. So still busy churning out content.
I saw your 5 best right-handed pitchers, and that was unbelievable. Your 5 best lefties. If you had to compile a list of 10 of the best Astros pitchers of all time, how many lefties would be on that list? Wow,
probably not many. The list of the righties was really tough. I mean, I was leaving guys like I can't even remember. Joe Niekro, who has
Scott.
Scott, yeah. Niekro has the all-time wins in franchise history. He wasn't in my top 5. Clemens, as good as Scott, won the Cy Young. Probably should have won another one in '89. He wasn't on my top 5. Yeah, lefties. I mean, Keuchel probably would be in there. Hampton. But yeah, the right-handers dominated. I mean, J.R. Richard, guys like Don Wilson, who a lot of people don't remember. You look at his stats, man, he was good for a long time and just dominant. And but yeah, the right-handed starters, I was kind of dreading that one. And when I got to get it and started looking at the names, I was like, boy, this is not going to be easy. But I went with Oswalt number 1. I mean, I just thought his decade of consistency and quality. I mean, longevity matters for me with the organization. I mean, if you want one season, take Verlander or Garrett Cole for sure. But just for the time spent in Astros uniform, I just thought what Oswalt did just for a decade. I thought that's why I ranked him number one. But you could have put J.R. Richard number one or Nolan or anybody, and I wouldn't have a problem with it.
Did Larry Dierker fall in that top five, Brian?
He did make my top five. I think I had him third or fourth.
Yeah.
And Larry's another one that you know, people know him as a manager and the broadcaster, but played 14 years with the Astros, and his numbers were tremendous.
Yeah.
A workhorse. Won a lot of games, pitched in a lot of big games, threw a ton of innings, and yeah, very much so was in my top five for sure.
Was Wandy Rodriguez on that left-handed pitching side?
He was. I did put him on the left-handed list.
Baby.
Again, I mean, I think when he came up in 2005, was traded in 12. So you're talking 7-8 years, Magic Wandy, just double-digit wins, and
he was pretty consistent on the mound every year too.
He was pretty consistent every year. I think he went like 12-11 or 11-12. You know, like a 3.7, 3.8 ERA. Yeah, he was Mr. Consistency, and a fun guy. I mean, for the media, we had a lot of fun with him, and I was excited a couple of years ago when he came back to spring camp for a little while and got to catch up with him. But he ended up getting that big contract towards the end of his career before they traded him to the Pirates. So good for Wandy. Yeah, I mean, I put him in my top five. I actually had people, and I get it, wanted me to put Randy Johnson in the top five. He only made 11 starts. 11 starts for yeah, those were unbelievable numbers, but I just couldn't put him in there over guys who had pitched years and years in Astros uniform like Wandy.
Monday was the anniversary of the Tombstone on the front cover of the Houston Chronicle Sports, and I know you did the story on that. That's probably one of those stories, and the quotes were awesome. You probably could have written twice as much as what you actually ended up with, huh?
Yeah, we did an oral history. Allison Footer and I worked on it for a few weeks, and we contacted pretty much all the main players from 2005, and it was fun to catch up with those guys. I talked to Bagwell, Berkman, Biggio, Osmus, who else? Mike Lamb, Brad Lidge, and Chris Burke. Yeah, Allison talked to Ensberg, Everett, Phil Garner, Tim Purpura, who was the GM at the time. So you got to remember that 2005 team. I mean, they had lost Jeff Kent, they had lost Carlos Beltran to free agency, a couple of messy free agent departures. Lance Berkman tears up his knee playing flag football in November. So, you know, Jeff Bagwell's shoulders hanging on by thread. So they're going in 2005 with a lot of question marks, but they had Clemens, Pettit, and Oswald at the top of the rotation. But that team went to the World Series after a 15-30 start, we all know, but digging into some of those games, they were getting battered. They lost 16-0 to the Braves. They went to Arlington and gave up 8 home runs. I remember watching that game and lost, I think, 18-3. You know, that music they play in Arlington when they hit the, I guess it's the natural music. That was when the Rangers hit a home run. That thing was blaring in my head all night. Home run.
Fireworks for that?
Yeah, no fireworks, but yeah. So it was fun to talk to all those guys and get their thoughts and get some inside stories on you know, what went wrong, what was going through their heads at the time, because you know the Tombstone came out June 1st, and it was a big deal. I remember the players looking at it, and that was the days when the newspaper was always laying around the clubhouse and guys were reading the newspaper at their lockers. So I remember the players, you know, looking at the Tombstone, and it angered some guys, and you know, some of the guys admitted that. Brad Lidge said it kind of made him mad a little bit and kind of motivated them. And, you know, next thing you know, they take off and go on one of the great runs in history and get all the way to the World Series. So, but the most amazing thing to that season, that team was 2-21 on the road. And they ended up going to the World Series. That just absolutely blows me away. 2-21. Yeah.
Who was responsible for putting the Tombstone on the front page of the sports?
That was sports editor at the time, Fred Fowler. And it went a little different than usually you write a story in newspaper, you write a story and they create a graphic to go with it if it's on the front page like that one was. But they had an idea for this Tombstone graphic, and they wanted a story to go with the Tombstone. I didn't write the Tombstone story. That was Jesus Ortiz, but he was reluctant to do it, and told me he was reluctant to do it. And the story really doesn't reflect the Tombstone. I mean, the story talked about how they're having a bad season, and Drayton was quoted saying, you know, they're not going to give up. But then the Tombstone said the season's over, so it was a little bit disconnected. But it was his idea, and then I think a couple of months later, they ran another Tombstone with lightning strike in it, and it's splitting in half. And sort of saying lightning striking twice, because the Astros had another great comeback in 2004, if you remember. They went 36-10 down the stretch to win the wild card on the final day of the season. So 2 years in a row, they dug themselves these huge holes, and they came out of it. And, you know, I don't know which one was more impressive, really. In 2004, when they went 36-10 down the stretch and were just a buzzsaw, or 2005 when they were 15-30. And then from June 1st on, they had the best record in the major leagues at 70-41. I mean, Andy Pettitte was pitching probably the best baseball of his career from June 1st on, and Oswalt was doing his thing. Clemens won the ERA title that year. Bullpen was pitching well. And you had all these great names on offense on this team, and that was not a good offensive team. They really struggled to score runs. And if it wasn't for Morgan Ensberg sort of having his career year when he hit 36 homers, you know, they would not have made the playoffs. So, you know, Bagwell ended up coming back in the World Series to pinch hit and be a designated hitter, but his career was pretty much over. Biggio was at the end of his career. You know, Berkman missed the first month with the ACL. In fact, he was supposed to miss the first 2 months, and they were doing so poorly that he sort of had to rush and get back. But it took him a few weeks to become Lance Berkman. But in the second half, he was a monster. So just, you know, those 2 years are just, you know, two of the more magical years in history, just with that group of guys. And I know Blummer played with some of those guys a little bit later, but that was a lot of fun.
All right, so you got to find the oral history. You got to follow Brian McTaggart on Twitter and Instagram too. I don't know if you're posting any pictures lately, but when there's baseball, you're usually posting some pics. But also when it comes to Astros moments, great Astros moments, if you follow Tags, you know he was there. And so as we celebrate Minute Maid Park here, and we've been talking a little bit about it, favorite memories in this ballpark. Do you have one or a couple that you can share with us? Just some of the greatest games you've maybe witnessed or covered?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think Biggio getting 3,000 hits on June 28, 2007. That was a special night. He ended up having 5 hits that night. They ended up winning the game on a walk-off grand slam by Carlos Lee. So that was a lot of fun. It's all in a book, by the way, that Sparks is promoting down here. So, but that was a magical night just because, you know, the build up towards the 3,000 hits, and it being, you know, we knew that was going to happen at some point that year. When would it happen? And to go into that night, I think 4 hits shy, and to end up getting 5 hits for Biggio, that was cool. That was a lot of fun. So many great playoff moments. I mean, you guys were there for those. The Game 5 of the World Series in 2015 obviously was one of the most memorable ones I can remember. I remember when it was 12-12, I looked up at the clock and it was midnight, and I remember tweeting out it's 12-12 at 12 a.m. and you know, Bregman won it shortly after that. The Altuve walk-off homer to win the ALCS last year was that's, you know, one of those moments that you'll always remember where you were at. Sort of like Chris Burke in 2005, the 18-inning game, probably the craziest game I've ever seen in my life, when you have Roger Clemens pitching 3 innings in relief and coming up and having to bat in the 18th inning, and Chris Burke hits a home run to win it and send the Astros on to the NLCS.
I thought you were going to say because Brad Ausmus actually hit a home run.
Brad Ausmus, hey, I'll tell you what, that was a stunning home run, probably the biggest swing of his career, right? I mean,
yeah,
2 outs, bottom of the 9th, and I mean, he absolutely got into one. I think it was off Farnsworth, maybe.
Farnsworth, yeah.
Yeah, and he hit it just over that little corner where the left field, where the yellow line goes up, and that was one of the biggest home runs in Astros history until, you know, the last couple of years when you know, they went nuts in the playoffs. But yeah, there were so many big moments in that game that and then winning it on the Chris Burke home run, that was up there as well. Probably a lot of Blum highlights too that I'm forgetting, but
like literally highlights. Yeah,
you're out. Yeah, but yeah, you had the blonde going back then. So.
Hey, Tags, what was your first year with the team?
The first year I covered them full time was 2004. I was out there a little bit in 2001 and through 2003. I was covering Rice baseball, and so when their season was over, which was back then June, because they went to the World Series every year, and they won it in 2003.
Yeah,
I was sort of help with baseball a little bit, but 2004. You know, they just signed Pettitte and Clemens. The All-Star game was in Houston, and the Chronicle decided they wanted to beef up the coverage and put 2 writers on the Astros full time, and rightfully so. So they actually called me and asked me if I wanted to do it. I was actually at Rice practice in 2004, and when I got a call from the sports editor asking me if I wanted to be at Minute Maid Park that night and cover the Astros. So that was sort of like my call up to the big leagues. So Yeah, and it was an amazing 2 years right out of the chute. I mean, I remember walking in the clubhouse for the first time in Kissimmee, and there's Clemens, Pettit, Biggio, Bagwell, Berkman, Kent, just Roy Oswalt, just stars all over the place. And I was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing here? And certainly a little bit intimidated and very, very excited. And but you know, those 2 years turned out to be two really, really special years, and yeah, some really fond memories for sure.
Have you enjoyed working in the city of Houston at all, Tags? I'm just kind of curious.
Have I enjoyed working in the city?
Yeah. Do you like this place at all?
Texas, I love Texas. Yeah.
It's,
you know, I've been really lucky
job
because
for a guy like you. That's why I asked. You always show up. You've got a smile on your face every time we see you.
Yeah, you know, I grew up as an Astros fan, and you know, the 1980 playoffs, I was living and dying with every game. I was 9, 10. I was 10 years old, and you know, I cried when they lost to the Phillies in '80, and then in '86, you know, that they had a tremendous team, and you know, they beat they won the division that year sort of unexpectedly, and that was the summer I turned 16, so I got my license, and all my buddies were going to the mall and going to Astro World, and I was going to the ballpark with a little coupon for $1 ticket where I could sit in the outfield and watch the '86 Astros. I mean, that's where I wanted to be. So I was going to as many of those games as I could, and yeah, so to get a chance to you know, years later sort of chronicle the team for the Chronicle, and then the website, and then to write a book. One of the cool things about me when the book came out was giving it to a lot of the former players that I grew up watching, and got a chance to interview them. Thanks, Sparky.
Sparky's good at product placement.
He is. Guys like Bill Doran, who was one of my favorite players growing up, a chance to talk to him about the book, and then, you know, sort of autograph the book for Bill Doran and send it to him. Wow. I mean, that's kind of a surreal thing.
Cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, guys like Terry Poole and guys like that, just the guys I grew up watching the '80s, and be able to interview them and write a book, you know, that they're mentioning prominently. That was a lot of fun, and being able to connect with those guys that, I mean, I never thought I would get to meet those guys or talk to them or and be in their world for a little minute. That was the coolest part of the whole thing. But yeah, I mean, a lot of guys in journalism, you don't get to spend your career in one city like I have, and I've never had to move. The family's never had to move out of Houston. We've stayed here our whole life, and hopefully we will forever. So it's worked out really well.
Julia mentioned to follow you on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm not sure everybody knows this. You're first team All-American on the karaoke circuit. So have you
I've got
entered the TikTok world yet?
No, I haven't done karaoke in a long time, so the pipes are not warmed up properly. So, but you never know. You know, I have to get back out there at some point and belt out some of my favorite Toby Keith. And
this is the time. I mean, this is the time. We got to get you out there on TikTok or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
So right.
I don't even know what TikTok is.
Oh,
what
come
is
on!
that?
You've got seniors in your house. No
I mean,
way.
I hear them. I asked them what they're doing. They said they're watching TikTok videos, and I have no idea what that is. So.
All right, we'll work on that when the season comes back. I'm usually good for helping somebody with their social media. Hey, well, you're like these guys. I mean, it's June now, and all you guys have ever known really is being at a ballpark. So where are you with all of the information that you're hearing and seeing and getting on baseball and returning?
I'm sort of like you guys, really. There's 3 or 4 of the national reporters that are doing a really good job, you know, of these negotiations that are going on. So, you know, I have them on the notifications on my phone. So anytime they tweet out a story, I'm anxious to click on and see when we're at. Other than that, I mean, I haven't been hearing, you know, a whole lot. It is weird to be in June and not have baseball. I look at the Astros schedule every now and then and see where we'd be on this weekend. And, you know, I remember a couple of weekends ago, we would have been in Boston, and man, that would have been a fun series. You know, the Yankees would have been in a few weeks ago, and the whole Garrett Cole coming into Houston, and, you know, the rematch of the playoffs, that would have been a lot of fun. So, you know, I'm hopeful they can get something going. I know they're up against the clock here to have a sort of a legitimate season. They're going to have to get it going within the next month, and we're going to have spring training. And it's going to be weird. It's not going to be like baseball that we've ever seen before, with no fans and all the other protocols that are going to have to happen. But at the end of the day, we'll be baseball, and it'll get us a step closer to getting fans in the stands and getting back to where we need to be. I saw something just a while ago. There's a proposal now for a 50-game season, which would absolutely be wild. That would be like a sprint. Everyone says baseball's a marathon, not a sprint. Well, this would be a sprint, and it would be absolute chaos, and it might be kind of fun. But I just hope they play in some form or fashion.
Some teams have said spring training 2.0, they're not going to be at their home cities based on various factors. You think if the Astros have spring training 2.0, it would be in Houston?
I would think so. I mean, they're pretty well equipped here, as they are in Florida as well. I mean, I guess they're going to be games in spring training. If not, you may as well stay in Houston, right? And the weather's going to be fine if they want to open the roof or whatever. So yeah, that would last about 3 weeks to get ready, and I hope we get a chance to see it. We're going to have a little bit of a realignment. There's going to be some different rules and things like that going forward. The DH in both leagues, which I'm for. I mean, you talk about growing up watching National League Baseball, watching the Astros. I grew up with pitchers hitting, and so I hated the DH. I was like, this DH, that's not baseball. But now that I've seen American League Baseball up close for the last 7-8 years, anytime a pitcher bats, I'm like, this is a waste of time because he's not good at it. He doesn't work at it. I'd rather have a legitimate hitter up there hitting, and I've never left the ballpark saying, "Man, that game had everything but a double switch." So I'm all for the DH in both leagues.
Zach Greinke might not talk to you,
Yeah, well, I don't know if he talks to me much anyway.
Right.
Status quo.
Tag, do you feel like there's a thread to this season if they get out there and they play 60 or 80 games, whatever it is? But Julia and I were talking earlier. We think that, man, it's half of these players on this Astros team right now are free agents. That's got to be a big topic for the writers, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's going to be a really interesting offseason with all the financial problems that the teams are going to have. The big time money is not going to be there. It's not really a good time to be a free agent, not a good time to be a college senior either.
Right.
So guys like Springer and Brantley, the market's not going to be there like it would have been otherwise. So what do? Do they stay around for another year? You take a qualifying offer, take a 1-year deal somewhere and see where we're at in a year. And if there's no baseball at all, you mean the market totally craters and then, it's chaos. But, I think a shortened season, that would benefit the Astros. I just think with the pitching that they have, the starting pitching they have, being able to ride those guys maybe a little bit harder and deeper. We all know there were going to be questions about McCullers and his pitch limit and innings limit, and that's probably going to go out the window. We know Verlander is going to be back healthy, and Greinke's 35, 36, so he's not going to have to throw a couple of hundred innings. So I think it could really benefit the Astros going forward with a shorter season. But it's going to be weird because they have so many free agents. I mean, what's their starting outfield going to look like next year? We don't know. It could be totally different than what it is now, and maybe 1 or 2 of those guys will be back or maybe not.
All right, Tags, what's your go-to George Strait song when you're singing karaoke when you make that comeback?
Boy, I would probably, let's see. I'd probably have to open it with
The Chair.
The Chair's up there. Maybe Amarillo by Morning, which is the greatest country song ever.
That's the one I love hearing you sing too, man.
You can't go wrong with any of them, but yeah, we'll get back out there on the stage, Blummer, someday soon. So
I know, hopefully sooner than later, because it's a good time, man.
Yeah, I miss all you guys and miss doing the day-to-day routine for sure.
It wasn't that long ago, Tags, that we were planning your big birthday that was coming up, and we were all going to be in Detroit together. And remember, we circled. We could. We could, but man, things happen. Things changed fast. So hopefully we can all celebrate.
Yeah, things happen really fast. Yeah, I got the big 5-0 coming up in a couple of months, so I will maybe be at a ballpark. Who knows? But it's probably the last one I'll celebrate because after that I'm going to quit having birthdays. So this will be it for me. So.
All right. Do we have any last questions for Tags?
Tags, have you covered any of the guys that are actually working out at Minute Maid Park right now?
No, it's closed to the media. In fact,
it is.
I don't even know who was there. They haven't told us who's there working out at all. But yeah, we were told. I guess when they announced they're going to open the workouts, that it was going to be closed to the media. I mean, they're going through a lot of protocols to get in there, and I don't know how the media is going to be treated in all this. When this all shakes out, are we going to? I can't imagine there would be a a press box full of reporters in the press box. I mean, we're going to sit in the stands spaced out since there'll be no fans. I guarantee I won't be in a major league clubhouse this year. That's for sure. I mean, that's not going to happen just with everything that's going on. So life as we know it as reporters covering the team is going to be changed too, and maybe change forever. I certainly see that going forward that they might change some of the way they do things as far as reporters access. I hope not, because one of the cool things that I like about this job is being able to get to know the players on a personal level and get to know, I covered a couple of you guys, Sparky and Blummer, and, Sparky just for a little bit, but, coming by the locker and just shooting the breeze and finding out what's going on. And, that's the fun part of the job. It's not, I don't go in there just to interview guys and get out. I like to talk to the players and build some relationships and get to know them a little bit. And not being able to do that every day is just sort of going to take a little bit of the human element out of it for me and a lot of reporters. So, but that's probably what we're going to have to do this year. And hopefully going forward, we can get back to covering it like we have for so many years.
We miss seeing you every single day, all day, every day. That's how, that's usually how it goes for us, but hopefully very soon we'll all be back together. Everyone, thanks to Tags for joining us on our happy hour.
Thanks,
guys.
guys.
Tags, thanks for coming on, man.
Stay safe.
Thanks for not having a beer for me. So.
I had two.
All right.
Good to see you,
guys.
buddy.
Yeah. See y'all later.
Later, Tags.